And there he goes. And he knows it. Okay, so this is Matt Wichlinski, owner of the Strength Shop in Orlando, Florida. He's a former WWE strength coach, former American Polish pro football player. He was running back. He posted 2021 accountability post. First heaviest deadlift in a while. Felt good until I tweaked my knee on this rep. Hope it's nothing a few grams of Motrin can't fix. Squats will definitely take a hit for a few weeks. Guess it's going to be lots of brolis for a while. I ain't mad. And me, I was curious just based on the presentation and how it looked. I commented, was it the right knee? And he was like, it's always the right knee. So I contacted Matt. I DM'd him to get his permission to post this video. So sit back and relax, and here we go. Hey guys, I'm in a new setting. I'm not in the garage gym, but I just want to make a quick video. Today on Facebook, social media friend Matt Wichlinski, we have a mutual friend, Chris Dillon, the patina master. He paints shoes. But anyway, Matt posted a video of him deadlifting for the first time in a while, and the guy is strong. He's really strong, and he must have had, I couldn't tell on the plates, but he must have had either at least 455, 495. I don't know if there are quarters on the end or if there are 45s, but anyway, anything over 300 is heavy to me. So anyway, what he posted was he, as soon as he pulled it, he felt his right knee go out. Now, I didn't know anything about his history. Just by looking at the video, what I noticed was, and I'll actually show you the clip right after I stop talking, was as soon as he pulled off the ground, his right foot was unstable, meaning his foot wasn't suctioned into the floor, and he had most of the weight on the outside border of his feet, leaving the inside border, his arch, exposed, creating an unstable situation that the brain perceives as a threat. So right away, his right knee turned in, to turn on his adductors to create that stability that the nervous system needed for such a heavy load. Now, problem with that is that it left the knee in an unstable position, and that's why he tweaked it. Okay, so the right foot was on an outside border, caused the right knee to cave in. He pulls the bar over 400 something pounds. That's the best way the body was able to compensate. So it's a holding pattern that he was expressing. And also interestingly, I had contacted him to see if it was okay for me to use this video, and he also gave me a little bit. He was very kind enough to share a little bit of his history, where he tweaked his, he tore his right MCL a couple of years ago, so he's had problems on and off with it, and he also has a messed up right shoulder. So I've never met Matt. I've only seen videos and just admire his work ethic and his strength, and the guy's a grinder. So this is a classic case or example where someone who's very strong, but when you have past injuries, there's just so much the strength can compensate for those injuries. So they're always going to come back. Unless, of course, you see someone like me that has an eye for these things, and we could start breaking down the compensations and these holding patterns, as I mentioned in previous videos. These holding patterns that were meant to help protect you, but what actually they're doing is they're limiting you in having a variety of patternings. So in his case, as you see, when he pulls the bar, his right shoulder goes forward because the way his body is in a compensated stability pattern, trying to protect him, he bears down on his right side, pulls his right pelvis higher, drops his right rib cage, which drops his right shoulder down and forward. So his rib cage is rotated or biased to turning to the left, and his pelvis is biased to turning to the right with respect to that, and there's more compression on his right side. So the brain senses instability. It's going to look for stability wherever it can, and it wants compression. So he's creating compression because of that. Right hip is higher, his right pelvis is elevated. So that's going to bring his right adductor or groin muscles into play and try to provide that stability. because of that limited positioning he has. So that's going to make his right leg seem functionally short, whatever that means. So his foot's going to go in a supination patterning or positioning, and that's going to try to make his leg a little bit longer in that respect. But it's just layer upon layer of discompensations, making a whole, not a mess as much as when you're lifting heavy weights, a lot of these things start to pop up because the brain is just trying to protect you, and we're geared for survival. So it's basically saying you have to own the patterns and the positions if you want to lift this weight. If not, you're going to have compensations. You're going to have limited thresholds of the soft tissue. You're going to have injuries. So without even, I've never met Matt. Hopefully one day I can meet him. He's based out, he owns the strength shop in Orlando, Florida. And I actually have family in Orlando, Florida. So if I ever come down to visit, I am sure to hit him up and help him out if he wants me to help him out. But what he needs to do is, one, he has to be aware of these patterns if he's not already, and then we have to re-educate his nervous system, meaning the brain's not going to be willing to let go, or not let go, you always have these patterns, but to disengage a pattern unless you teach it something more viable, more beneficial, and less threatening, something that's going to create a better outcome of survival, and especially in unloading the involved soft tissues. In his case, it's his right knee. He does have an injured right medial collateral ligament, and as according to him, an effed up right shoulder, which I take as it's basically a shoulder and holding pattern that's bringing in a very limited positioning with very limited capacity to move. So he's not able to use it the way he wants to get outside of that pattern. So a lot of things could be done as far as engaging certain muscles, and it's not that hard because he's a strong dude. He's a former athlete. He used to play pro ball in the Polish American Football League, and he was a strength coach for the WWE. So he's no stranger to strength, obviously. He's a great strength coach as well as a great athlete. So athletes generally are great compensators for their injuries because they need to keep on going, but they are also great compensators of using their strength to get away with some of their weak links, you want to say. So some of the things I would really want to see on him is how can we get him to decompress and open up his right side. How can we make that right leg somewhat functionally longer without him compensating using his supination of that right foot, ankle, so that that right knee doesn't have to cave in. So meaning his right gluteus maximus, and bringing his pelvis a little bit more forward on the right, so his shoulder doesn't have to go forward all the time. Okay, as well as I always talk about, the rib folds, his left abdominal wall, to allow him to rotate his trunk to the right and get that right shoulder back, so the right shoulder gets in a better position, get him strong in these positions or these opposing patterns that he's not used to or aware of. I can make a whole video on this, but it wouldn't make any sense unless I put it clinically, and it doesn't make any sense unless I actually see somebody in person. So anyway, I just wanted to, the next clip you're just going to see me voice over while Matt does his lifts. Right there, check out his right foot. He's putting pressure on the outside border of his right foot. Do it again. Look at his right foot. Before he pulls and picks up the bar, outside border, knee goes in, right shoulder's forward more than the left. And he knows it. Watch him wobble. Whoop. There you go. Let's do it again. Watch that right foot. As soon as he takes the tension off the bar, boom, right there, knee goes in. Crushing right through that medial inside part of his knee. And the first thing I would probably teach Matt if I was in person with him, but he could probably apply just from this one thing, is one, I'd get into that same position, preferably with a lighter weight. Get in the same setup position. This time, I would have him do what I tell all my clients, and you've seen my previous videos, is to first and foremost suction your feet. both feet, left and right. Suction your feet into the floor so that your feet and your shoes, no aspect of them are coming off the floor throughout the whole movement. Not just during your setup, but through the pull off the floor to the top, and then as you lower it. No aspect of your feet or shoes come off the floor. Okay? It's very important because that provides the first step in grounding or stability for the brain to deal with. If any aspect of your foot comes off the floor or the shoe, has to be made up for somewhere else in the body, believe it or not. Usually, it's people's lower backs, it's their hip flexors, and in Matt's case, it's his knee. It's where they have their symptoms. So, first and foremost, practice that grounding, suctioning the feet throughout the whole movement. Two, in his case, because he has the whole history of injury in his right medial collateral ligament, is suction the feet, but on the right foot, bias more pressure towards the medial or inside his instep by the ball of his big toe and the big toe. Bias more weight, whatever that means to you, to that aspect. Okay, without the outside part of your foot coming off the floor, but just put a little bit more bias on the inside part of the right foot. At the same time you do that, maintaining that, turn that right knee out so it feels like you're lengthening the right leg from your pelvis. So you feel, when you turn that right knee out and the right foot in, you feel the right gluteus maximus, the outside back portion of your gluteal muscles turn on. Okay? So you have the right foot, bias turned in, right knee turned out, feel your right glute. At the same time, I want you to pull to feel the pinky and ring fingers on the bar. Okay? All hand, but squeeze the pinky and ring fingers on the bar, especially for him, until he feels his left abdominals engage more so than his right. Okay, that's going to help bring his pelvis in a little bit more of a balance to where, to make a long story short, to where he's used to. It's just going to bring him in a more centered position, so he can produce and absorb force. And then I would just practice him, drilling him with lighter weight, feeling those reference points, and start from there. Of course, there's a lot of things if that's not successful. He might have some what I call hypertonicity, increased tone in his right adductor or groin muscles that might be pulling that pelvis a little bit higher. So, and he might have some other issues, but I think for the sake of this video, to make it short, long story short, is to try this little drill and see if that improves the pressure on his knee, right? So you know it's working if you don't feel the pressure on where you have your injuries or compensation points, which is his right knee and his right shoulder.